YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today, guys, we'll be talking about the deck that I've been using or typically used for the Fusion and Link Festival. So this is the DESPIA Chimera. I had a few ideas, why not add also Chimeras into the mix? That way, you have a starter either going into a copy of Aliber or going into a copy of the Sword Knight on the field, summoning a copy of the Baphomet. This works pretty well as well because our main engine here is the EDGM chain, which allows us to gain access to our polymerization. You can just use this basically like a copy of Chimera Fusion if you have the right materials on hand or on the field. One copy of the King of Swamp. This comes out from time to time. You can search out a copy of the polymerization, although this is an initial good card as well to go into some of the monsters like the Graphad, the Dragon Overlord of the Dark World, which is kind of good as well. Dragostapelia is another good card as well. The Cortus was actually questionable, and the Praskenian, I had some thought on adding it, but just removed it. Although I have 14 cards in the extra deck, I just basically use this build to its fullest. Card by card, 2 Effect Veilers, a Sorry Negate, 3 copies of Imperm, 1 Tragedy. You can drop this from the copy of Foolish Burial, 1 King of the Swamp, 3 copies of Ash, 2 copies of EDGM Chain. You can run 3 copies of this and then remove a copy of Polymerization, 2 copies of Aliber, 3 copies of your Gazelle, 3 copies of Coral, 3 copies of Sword Knight, 2 copies of Baphomet, 1 copy of Dramaturge. Really good card if you use this as a fusion material. It can be special summoned back to the field. Also, if your opponent summons an XZ Link or anything else on the field that is another monster type, you can target a card on the field, a monster on the field, and you can negate its effect. 3 Polys, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 copies of Patchwork, 1 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Theater of the Branded, 1 Super Poly, 1 copy of Opening, 3 copies of Chimera Fusion, and lastly 3 copies of Imperm. Extra deck, 2 copies of Chimera King of the Phantom Beast. You just basically need 2 of these. 2 copies of Baphomet, the Mythical King of Phantom Beast, 1 Dragostapelia, 1 Starving Venom, 1 Coritis, 2 copies of Masquerade. I did run 3 copies before, but just having 2 copies is enough. 1 copy of Chimera, the Illusion Beast, really good card for an OTK. 1 copy of Reliever, nice card. 1 copy of Chimera, sadly, we can just use 1. And lastly, 1 copy of Grappa for our fusions with the copy of Predaplant, Vert, and Anaconda if you have a ton of monsters on the field. So typically, this works perfectly well. If you have the right cards on hand, you can even summon the 2 Masquerades on the field and then let your opponent burn itself or himself. That is basically the deck that I've been using for the Fusion and Link Festival. With that, let's go towards our replays and yeah, enjoy. Alright, so here we are with the replays, man. So we have a copy of Tragedy, 1 EDGM Chain, a copy of Sword Knight, 1 Frightfur Patchwork, and lastly a copy of Chimera Vision. Now, our guy is opening up here and he is using Predaplants. Now, typically I don't remember the name of Predaplants because they are hard to spell out. So I'm just gonna go into his combos here and then just with basically, so he's gonna go a copy of Orphris, I think, Scorpio. Gain access to the fusion, use the effect of the fusion, spell summon the Ambulomades to the field, use the effect, gain access to a Pendulum monster. Now I really forgot the effects for Predaplants here, so bear with me. But his board is just 3 monsters on the field and then 3 back rows, which is alright. So at this point he can fusion summon during his turn, or during my turn I mean. So pretty good. We got a copy of DESPIA Theater of the Branded from our draw. So all I need to do is bait out an Ash here so that our Sword Knight will go through. Even if that is an Imperm there, I think we still have a good starting hand because of the Theater. So with this, we go for a copy of Patchwork, checking out if he has a copy of Ash Blossom, which he has, so that's good for us. We bait out an Ash. There we go. And then we use the effect here of our Mirror Sword Knight in the field. Tribute itself, he will fusion summon into a copy of Dragostapelia, which is not half bad, I would say. Luckily, we have a copy of Chimera Fusion in the field. He will go for a copy of Dragostapelia. And once I use the effect of my Baphomet, he will use the effect of Dragostapelia there, targeting my Baphomet. Luckily, the Chimera Fusion will save the day. Use the 3 monsters on the field and the hand, or one monster in the field and 2 on my hand, to go into a copy of Guardian Chimera. So with this, We pop 1 in the field and draw 2 cards, plus the effect of Edge Chain and a copy of Tragedy. So really good search, and since we have the theater, we can already go into a good play. So with that, Chainlink 2 for Big Wing Baphomet, Chainlink 3 for Edge Chain, and lastly Tragedy will gain us access to the Dramaturge. It would have been like the other way around for Tragedy for third and then Edge Chain last, but it's still perfectly fine because the Ash Blossom went through already. So with that, draw 2 cards, pop 1 card. We go for a copy of Triple Tactics, gain control of the 1 card. We use the effect of Theater, fusion summon into a copy of Masquerade in case he will survive this OTK. Go for the effect of Dramaturge and then end the game right here. So really good, very solid deck if ever you have the right cards on hand. So that is our first game. Let's go to our second game. Alright guys, so here we are with game number 2. So we have 1 copy of Edge of Chain, 1 Color, 2 copies of Mirror Sword Knight, and 1 copy of Triple Tactics Selling. So right off the bat, we don't have a really good hand. We only have 1 starter for the Mirror Sword Knight. If ever this will be negated or our Baphomet will be negated, we can't follow through. So let's see. We go for a copy here of Sword Knight. Tribute itself, summon a copy of Baphomet to the field, and luckily it went through. So we gain access to the Chimera Fusion and a copy of our Gazelle. We use the effect of Kodal here, dump itself to the graveyard, so in case our opponent will target our monster for a negate, we'll have Kodal as protection. So go into a copy of Chimera King of the Phantom Beast, and since we dropped a copy of Edge Chain, we can gain access to the Patchwork. So we rip 1 card, use the effect of Edge Chain, and then gain access to 1 card from the effect of Gazelle, which is the Kodal for the next turn, or follow up for the next turn. Gain access to the Patchwork, and we can rip during the end turn. Use the effect of the Patchwork, gain access to Polymerization and the second copy of Edge Chain. Use the effect of Chimera Fusion, add it back to our hand, and then we set back a copy of our copy of our Chimera Fusion. So once he dropped a copy of Toolkit Table of Contents, this is Tunes, so it is kind of rough because yeah. He's going to use a copy of Toon Kingdom to the field. Now, I would summon a copy here of Guardian Chimera just for the additional draw, because at this point, our hand is not looking well. So go for Guardian Chimera. Now, I know this card is protected, of course. Regardless, it's still perfectly fine. At least we got the 2 draws. And then go for a copy of Edge and Chain. Search out a copy of Patchwork, but since I think we only have the 2 polymerization already? No, we haven't got the second polymerization. So that's perfectly fine. Summon a copy of Mirror Sword Knight to the field, and then he'll summon his 2 monsters on the field. So with that, go for a copy of Baphomet to the field from the Mirror Sword Knight, gaining access to the Chimera Fusion and the copy of Gazelle with 3 back rows. Solemn cards is just the back rows for this guy. And with the amount of protection that he has, it's kind of rough. Now, I should have not gone into a copy of Elber first, but I did not know that he was running Solemn here. I thought I was playing safe because I have a copy of Chimera Fusion, but yeah, this is a really good counter trap. So Solemn Strike was activated, negating its summon, and then my card popped. So can't do anything, we can't continue. And I was gonna go into like, oh my god, I put Chimera Fusion on this line here. Luckily, it wasn't an imperm here. So there we go, we use the effect of this monster right here, the Baphomet. So all we need to do is just attack, and at this point, I forgot the attack was this is 1/4, so I attacked the monster. Yeah, it was my fault. I thought that this was a 9. I don't know why I saw that as a 9. So with this, we just set the Emperor, the 2 copies of Guardian Chimera, and that's basically it. During his turn, he has a copy of Regeki and just dealt a ton of damage to my life points here with the 1900, which was looking bad for me at this point on, but that back row is still very sus, and I think that was just a crackdown here. So turn 5, we got a copy of Ash Blossom, which is pretty good. Use the effect of Chimera Fusion, add it back to our hand. We go into a copy of Chimera Fusion, summon the Illusion Beast to the field. Now our guy will use the effect of Crackdown here. Luckily, we have the Kodal in the graveyard for a negate. And then at this point, I can attack twice here. So attack first for the Chimera. Turn that monster into a 0 attack, and then attack for the last time, ending the game right here. So a tough break for me, but yeah, there's some minor misplays, but we managed to pull through. So that's our second game. Let's go towards our third game. For our last game, we have here a copy of Edge of Jane, 1 Aliber, 1 copy of Mirror Sword Knight, 1 Foolish Burial, and a copy of Imperm here. So I have 2 starters here if I like to use them. I need to bait out an Ash Blossom first. We're going up against Memento, by the way. So we dump a copy of Tragedy, search out a copy of Dramaturge. At this point, my best choice here is going for a copy of Mirror Sword Knight, but our guy has a copy of Psy-Frame, which is pretty bad because I don't have like our strong protection if ever he has like any other cards. Luckily, when I found out that he has Memento, which of course I know the significant cards that he'll basically pull, so yeah, we were good. Going to a copy of Dark Blade, I was gonna save this for the right monster, but this is gonna be alright. So, negate the effect of Dark Blade here. He dumped a copy of Mace here. Okay, so never mind. Go for a copy of Tatsunoto. Use its effect, pop itself, and dump 2 cards from the deck to the graveyard. So, summon a copy of Gatek, and then go for 1/800 to my life points. At this point, he doesn't have any protection, and I'm free to move. As long as he doesn't have a copy of Ash Blossom, I'm good. Try to bait out an Ash here with a Kodal. Luckily, there were none at all. So go for a copy of Sword Knight, trigger Tribute itself, spell summon the Baphomet to the field, gain access to the Chimera Fusion and a copy of Gazelle. Go for the Chimera Fusion. Summon the monster, the Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts. And with that, use its effect, Chain Link 2, Edge of Chain, Gazelle, access 1 card. I think I got a Kodal here. I think so, maybe. Yeah, I got a Kodal. There you go, Edge of Chain, get a copy of Patchwork, Fright for Patchwork, use its effect, gain access to the second copy of Edge of Chain and a Polymerization, which at this point, we are good for game. So there we go, gain access to the Chimera Fusion, Polymerization is going to be activated, special summon a Masquerade in case this guy will survive, summon the Dramaturge because it was used as a fusion material, and he will use the effect of Nibiru, which was not half bad. Luckily, I saved a copy of Chimera Fusion here. So we use the effect of Chimera Fusion, go into a copy of Guardian Chimera, and it was kind of okay though. Now, my draw was Ash and a copy of, I think, Triple Tactics. I draw that correct, yeah. So there you go. I used the effect of Triple Tactics. I should have gone with draw 2, but I was very curious with the card on hand, so this was my choice. Rip 1 card, and that is basically it. So my main purpose here, since I am dealing with Memento, whatever he must summon to the field, pop itself, send cards to the graveyard, or summon to the field, I have Ash Blossom. So I don't lose at this point on. So that's basically it. The games that we have for the Fusion and Link were very fun. I had a ton of fun with this deck. And yeah, that is basically it for today, guys. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next video. Goodbye.